Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sharon Dickey. I'm Commercial Director for Waracle. Thank you for waiting. I suspect you've been waiting to get into the meeting. We might give it 1 minute just to see, let anyone else join in who's coming off another call, and then we'll get started. So just bear with us while everyone gets on, and then we'll kick off into today's session. Okay, I'm going to kick off. For those who have just joined, I'm Sharon Dickey. I'm Commercial Director at Waracle. We're delighted to be co-hosting this event today with People's Postcode Lottery. And we know that it's quite a stressful time out there for a lot of people at the moment, particularly in the last few weeks with results coming in. And we thought it might be a good time just to share some of our journeys to give you an idea of, I guess, the accessibility and the capability of coming into the tech industry. They're quite wide and varied stories that we're going to go through today. I'm from a marketing, commercial, sales, business development background, and you'll hear from devs and you'll hear from various groups of people. So it's a very broad industry to come into, and one that we would totally recommend. I've been in the industry or in tech for 23 years and counting, mainly around marketing, strategy, and business development. And there'll be 6 other people talking today about their journeys and giving top tips in terms of what they did. Interestingly enough, most of them didn't start their careers in tech, but found it, and I think they've found what they think is their place as well in terms of where they want to be with their career. So I hope you'll find it interesting. I hope you'll be inspired or motivated, or at least be able to relax and realize that there are other opportunities out there. In terms of asking questions, the format that we'll go through today, you don't need to wait till the end to ask questions. There's a chat icon down the bottom of the screen in the middle. You can ask questions at any time. I will come back on at the end and I'll pose those questions to the rest of the team. So we'll go through like that. So for those of you that don't know Waracle, very quickly, Waracle is a mobile app developer, largest in the UK. We're 160 odd people and counting. And just to give you context in terms of how quickly and things change in tech, I joined Waracle just under 4 years ago, and there was 27 people. So times change very quickly. We have offices throughout the UK. We have our own Waracle Digital Academy, which may be of interest to many of you, which is free. We run it, a lot of our enthusiasts and experts run that on different topics at different times of the year. So that's something to look out for as well. And we look at, we're particularly focused on heavily regulated industries is where we work. So that's very much in a nutshell as to who we are. But without going much further on, then what I will do is look to hand over in terms of some of our next people and start the journeys to give you an idea of how you could get started in your own tech career. So these are the people that are going to be speaking today. I'm not going to talk through the agenda. We'll kick off immediately with Matt from Waracle to talk through his own journey.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Hi everyone, I'm Matt. As my slide says, I'm a principal consultant at Waracle. It's an extreme pleasure to be able to speak today in conjunction with People's Postcode Lottery and the No Wrong Path campaign. My journey to where I am today probably started like many people's, I suppose, where I really had no idea what it is I wanted to do. However, I've been really lucky that I found a job that I love, and I'm really looking forward to telling you a bit about how I ended up where I am today and some of the things I've learned along the way. So I suppose if I start with my schooling, unfortunately it wasn't the best. I suffered and still do suffer from dyslexia and dyscalculia, which made learning very difficult, and I left school with very poor grades. I was very much disheartened and pretty lost. However, I knew I wanted more, and I was determined that I would not be defined by my disabilities. So I decided to take a more vocational path, and I suppose my journey into tech started when I joined an apprenticeship scheme with a company called Bull Information Systems. I qualified and I worked in several roles in IT as an IT support engineer. But there came to a point where I was getting bored and I was a bit disillusioned. This is where I made the decision to say, this is not what I want to do. I believe strongly that if you don't enjoy something, you shouldn't do it. So I decided to make the change. This was around the time that new media was being coined and web and websites were becoming more prominent. This really interested me, and I loved the fact, and still do love the fact, that it's a very creative industry which mixes technology, user experience and design. So I enrolled on an evening and weekend course in web development. I would be lying if I said I found it easy. It wasn't, but I worked really hard and I completed the course. But along the way, I realized that I probably wasn't cut out to be a developer. However, I was absolutely hooked on the concept. And through it, I realized that there are so many other roles that are required to build in digital products. Being a developer is just one small part of that. And there really is something for everyone. And product and product management was something that I felt matched my skill set. So I started to apply for jobs, but unfortunately this proved harder than I thought. I literally applied for everything and anything that fitted the criteria. But it was a very competitive market, and unfortunately I struggled. I can't remember how many interviews I attended and how many CVs I sent out, but one thing it did teach me is just to keep going and really never give up. Dealing with rejection is hard. I get that. I felt it, but I was able to learn from those, the knockbacks. And one thing I would always say, as a bit of piece of advice, is always push the recruiter and the hiring manager to give you reasons why you didn't make the next stage or get the job. And also, it's very important to do the research on the company that you're applying for. There's no one CV fits all. Tailor your CV so it fits the criteria they're looking for. You really want them to look at this and say, this is the person I want to speak to. So thankfully, I finally got my break with a small agency in London called Brandworks, and I had my foot in the door. I took the chance with both hands and made it my sole purpose to make up for, I suppose, lost time. I read every blog and wiki page that I could find. I asked the developers so many questions to the point where they would probably just roll their eyes when I'd speak. But I listened, and I had to say they actually appreciated that, and they enjoyed talking to me about what actually was their passion. Which was great, and I just learned as much as I could. After 1.5 years, I left Brandworks and went to work for another bigger agency. And this is where I met Grant Burbeck, who was certainly one of the people who made a huge impact in my life. Grant was a part of the senior leadership team and the client success director. And I approached Grant and asked him if he would become my mentor. He taught me a hell of a lot, and because he wasn't my direct line manager, I was able to discuss things with him in an unbiased manner. So finding a good mentor is something I would highly recommend. For me, it was one of the best career moves I've ever made, and Grant is not only my mentor, but I class him as a very good friend of mine still to this day. So at this point, I've been working in web for about 4 years, but my attention this time was starting to, my attention was caught this time by the increasing move more towards mobile. Every website we've been building had to be mobile responsive, and the more I looked into it, I found this is an area that really excited me, and I wanted to explore it more. So I left and joined a company called Chelsea Apps Factory, where I spent the next 2 years building the Vanquish Bank credit card app. This was definitely where I cut my teeth in mobile and running agile at scale. I was totally out of my comfort zone. There were days when I thought I didn't know what I was doing, and I would go home and I'd wonder if I could do this. But I know this might sound silly, but one thing I found that really helped is I used to run a retrospective on my own performance at the end of each week. It really helped me focus on what I'd done well, what hadn't done well, and really sort of helped me to sort of think of areas where I could improve. So I dug in And yeah, it turned out to be a hugely successful project, not just for myself and CAF, but also for the bank. And, you know, as well as, you know, just sort of rolling up my sleeves and getting into it, I think one of the main factors is I just had a great team around me. You know, we treated everyone as equals and we celebrated success together, as long with failure, and we never threw anyone under the bus. And, you know, we worked as a team and we delivered as a team. And yeah, it was a fantastic point in my life. So I was now in a senior role. I was qualified as a Scrum Master and product owner, but this is also at the time that my daughter Ava was born. Myself and my wife Hannah, who was originally from Scotland, decided we wanted to move to Edinburgh. Relocating to a different part of the country is a daunting task. However, I didn't need to worry because I was fortunate enough to come and work for Waracle. At the time, they had just become the mobile partner for Sainsbury's Bank, and they were looking for someone to come on board and help manage the team. After Sainsbury's, I went on to build the Royal London Pensions app before being asked to join the consultancy department as the principal consultant, where I am today. So what does a consultant at Waracle do? So I spent my time split between helping the sales team with new prospective clients, helping to understand their asks and trying to craft what it would take to take their ideas and vision and turn them into a digital product. And the second part of my role is as an engagement manager. So I support clients through the discovery and build stages and help to advise and guide where possible. I absolutely love what I do. I get to work with great clients such as PPL, and I work with some really exciting projects. Also, the variety is one of the best things. Any idea you can think of can become an app, a web page, website, or a connected piece of technology. And I'm really lucky enough to be able to help deliver those for our clients. So I suppose coming full circle, from leaving school, my plan was never to get into technology, but I'm certainly glad I did. And I would recommend it to anyone starting their own journey or someone who's perhaps looking for a change. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague, Tom, who will tell us about his own journey and how he ended up where he is today.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to My No Wrong Path. My name's Tom Williams, and I'm one of the regional directors here at Waracle. So you're going to hear a lot today about the technology side of things and the roles that form technology teams. I sit slightly outside that, a lot like Sharon, and in the commercial side of the business. So I've always worked in the kind of sales and account management side of the business. Much like Matt, school was really not a strong point for me. I was nearly expelled. I suffered with undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia. And at the age of 16, after completing my GCSEs, I left school before I was pushed. After leaving school, I didn't really know what to do. I'd always been big into my sports. I played a lot of rugby. I've always been very competitive. So it seemed a natural thing to kind of fall into the kind of health and fitness sector. So I managed to get myself on an apprenticeship, and over a 3-year period, further qualified as a personal trainer and a massage therapist, attaining sort of qualifications at NVQ4 level. Finished there, and I was like, right, okay, what next? I know I love health and fitness. I know I love this industry, but I also do want to do a bit of traveling. So I came across an opportunity to work on cruise ships, and to be honest with you, I just grabbed it with both hands. I spent 2 years traveling the world as a PT, having a lot of fun, seeing lots of wicked places, and actually, earning some good money in the process. But what I did learn during this period that was crucial to my kind of sales journey was that selling yourself is just so important no matter what you do. Whether you're a developer, whether you're in marketing, doesn't matter. You have to learn to sell yourself. So one of my first pieces of advice is get comfortable in that and get comfortable and confident in selling yourself. I came out of working on the cruise ships and came home and was like, right, what next? And I became aware of an opportunity. I'd always loved skiing. So I decided to pack up my VW Golf at the time and move out to the French Alps. I set up a mobile massage business. What this basically was me flying around different chalets, giving injury treatments or therapeutic treatments for people post-skiing. This was once again really crucial in my kind of sales and marketing journey, because I had to learn everything from how to run a P&L, how to network and get this business on board. I was the only person out there, and I was responsible for keeping food on my table and my rent being paid, or otherwise I was coming home. I had a great time, and but I came back after my season and kind of realised that I wanted to get into business-to-business sales. I wanted to be at the forefront of things and doing the kind of cool, fun, smart sales in the suits at the sharp point of business. I applied for a lot of different roles, but as you can imagine, with my past, I wasn't really particularly suited to them, and I didn't have the experience. I worked in a gallery even as a salesperson selling contemporary art, until eventually I got a break. One of our family friends got me into an interview with Pitney Bowes. So for those of you who don't know what Pitney Bowes are, they're a multinational blue chip organisation that build and sell franking machines and mailing software. Franking machines are the machines that put the business stamp on the front of all of your sort of mail. I got the opportunity to interview for them, and I grabbed it with both hands, basically. I got the job as a junior sales executive, and I started my real sales career from here. This was a really tough environment to be selling in. There was a team of 130 salespeople, field salespeople. I was the youngest of those 130. I'd moved up to Manchester. I'm originally from Devon, so I was in a new area. I was running a patch that was around Manchester and Preston and Bolton. And, this was hard, month-to-month sales. This was, having to hit your targets every single month. If you didn't 3 months on the trot, that's it, you're gone. See you later. I was with Pitney Bowes for 2 years, and I'm really proud of this part of my journey, because not only within the first year I became one of the top 3 salespeople, I was the youngest salesperson in that company at that time. I got to the top 3 in the UK, and the other top 2 were in London, and they always had the bigger accounts. I got promoted to more of a software salesperson then, looking at some of the larger solutions that put together for financial services organizations, and organizations doing huge amounts of mailing. This is where I kind of started to find my love for technology and software. I realized the mailing industry was in decline, so I wanted to make a move. So I reached out to a recruiter, and I said, look, what's out there? I got really lucky, and I got an interview with a company called Exception. Exception actually only interviewed me at the time because 3 other sales guys on the day had dropped out. They didn't think my profile was quite senior enough for the role they were looking for in Manchester. I managed to get in front of the CEO and the chairman, and they said, look, well, we don't want to offer you the job here, Tom. We would like to move you up to Scotland and start to kind of grow you in that space. So I made the move, jumped up to Scotland, didn't know anyone, and that was 7 years ago now. This also led to my next career move, which was very lucky. Exception partnered with Waracle at the time. This was about 4 years ago. I reached out to Dave and Chris, the owners of Waracle, and sort of showed my interest in emerging technology and some of the amazing work they were doing. Like Sharon, when I joined, we were a team of 27 people. I've been really proud to be part of the journey that we've gone on to grow to the size we are, and acquiring the amazing talent and amazing brands that we have throughout that journey. Which leads me on quite nicely to introduce you to Craig, who we partner with the People's Postcode Lottery. Craig, if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about People's Postcode Lottery.
Hi everyone. My name's Craig Syme, and I lead the software development team at the People's Postcode Lottery. If you haven't heard of the People's Postcode Lottery, we're a subscription-based lottery that exists to give money back to good causes. It costs £10 a month to play the Postcode Lottery, where you can win financial prizes, and of the subscription we give 32% of money back to good causes, and it's an excellent company to work for. There's lots of different and exciting opportunities. We've got vacancies open at the moment, which you can see at careers@postcodelottery.co.uk. I'd encourage you to visit the site and have a look and see what we have available at the moment. Can we move on to the next slide? So as I introduce myself, my name's Craig Syme, and I'm going to introduce you a little bit to my journey towards tech. Like Matt's and Tom's, not entirely straightforward. I did take the degree route, and like Tom and Matt, I also suffer from dyslexia, which leads me into saying that I didn't do that well at school. I left school only with a few hires at the end of it, and I was sort of left wondering, like, what is my path going to be? And I knew that I liked problem solving, and I liked engineering. So I decided to study mechanical engineering at college rather than taking the degree route. And it was identified quite early on at college that my dyslexia was holding me back, and the college wanted to help me, and they gave me a computer, and that was really the turning point for me in my learning journey. Was being able to effectively communicate. Like, my written communication is probably my weakest point, and especially within exams, and having a computer to be able to type up my reports and essays made a massive difference for me. And this is going back like 25 years. Like, people didn't have laptops and iPads and computers like we did now. But that was transformational for me, and that allowed me to gain direct entry into my degree course at Strathclyde University, and I ended up graduating with a degree in manufacturing engineering and management, just at the perfect time for the manufacturing industry to go into massive decline in Scotland. And I was left kind of wondering, what am I going to do? And I decided to take a job as a quality engineer with an electronics company, and I learned really quickly that I didn't actually enjoy that. There was lots of statistics and yield analysis, and it was quite dry. And I had to get suited up in a clean room suit and sit head to toe in a clean room, and I didn't really enjoy the environment or the segregation in that role. And I guess that would lead me to my first bit of advice, is that it's really key. Like, I think you'll see from all of our journeys that none of them are particularly straightforward. But what is key is that if you don't enjoy something, then you're probably not going to be successful at doing it. Like, it helps an awful lot if you enjoy what you're doing. It makes it an awful lot easier for you to sink and invest the time needed to be successful in your career. And an opportunity came up for me within the same company to apply for a role as an embedded software engineer, and I grabbed it with both hands. It was like fun, lots of interesting and complex problems to solve, and I probably spent too long in that role. In hindsight, looking back in my career, but it was really interesting. But I guess one of the things about another piece of advice is that if you're working in an industry that's shrinking, it's probably time to think about your exit strategy and what your next move in your career is going to be. And I didn't do that. I sat in the same job for too long. But when I did move, I ended up moving into web, and it was probably one of the best moves that I made in my career. It led me, like, I took a transition role, and I guess that's another bit of advice that I would be willing to offer, is if you are in a job and you do know that tech is the thing that you want to be doing, like, be willing to take a drop in pay, or take a job that's going to give you that doesn't have a certain future, but gives you something on your CV, something concrete to make that transition into tech. It's really worthwhile. It shows that the experience is critical, and that's what I did, and it ended up leading me to getting a job at Skyscanner, which is where I learned that in that organisation they kind of lived and died by their the quality of their product, and how customers enjoyed using the product. And Skyscanner at the time, and still are customer obsessed. They gather lots and lots of metrics and data about how people use their site, and are constantly trying to innovate and improve how users interact with the site. And I learned so much when I was there about the customer focus, and that software is only valuable if people are actually using it, and learning how people using software is really important, and like more important than how the software is written itself. So I took a lot of those learns that I made whilst I was at Skyscanner, and I wanted to move to a smaller organization where I could differentiate myself and help a company use some of the lessons that I've learned. So I joined the People's Postcode Lottery leading test engineering. And what I found at the Postcode Lottery, it was more about the development, the process, the overall process of how we built software, that we kept seeing the same problems in test. And I wanted to shift left and help address some of those issues. And that led me into applying for the role of development manager, and allowing me to learn about interesting terms like DevOps and security and resilience, and lots of really interesting things about how you make your software resilient and reliable, so that lots of people can use it, and also allowing us to start on our journey to becoming being product focused. So I haven't had a straightforward path to software engineering, and it's taken me quite a while to find a career that I really, really enjoy. But overall, that's my biggest piece of advice is to try and identify something that you enjoy, and focus on it, and don't be afraid of making some sacrifices to go after it. So I want to introduce you to a couple more people in my team. And I'm going to introduce you to Aline Mokfa, who's got a really interesting no wrong path journey.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Awesome. Great. So my name is Aline Mokfa. I'm 34 years old, originally from Brazil. And today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about my no wrong path journey. So as the second bullet point there says, I did barely scrape through school. I really did not care about maths at all. And like Tom, it was mostly due to undiagnosed ADHD. But I do also believe that a big part was because of how school is set up and how it fundamentally doesn't cater to diversity of learning styles. So even though society makes it a significant part of your life, do try and divorce your self-worth from that experience if you can. Many times it truly is a case of it's not you, it's them. So my first tip would be find out what your learning style is. It will massively help you in your journey. And despite it all, when sitting the exams to enter university, I achieved one of the highest grades. I was the first person in my family to get into uni, so it was a really, really emotional time. I absolutely loved psychology, but in Brazil, it's very expensive. It would take me more than a decade to finally graduate, so I decided to move to Scotland. So my second tip is, in a world where plenty of people have a lot stacked against them, meritocracy is a very dangerous illusion. Many of my friends, they were extremely talented, but simply could not afford to graduate or to move to a different country. So yeah, hard work is paramount, but it's very important to keep in mind that privilege and luck also play a huge part on how your journey goes. So when I arrived in Scotland, it was super tough. I loved the people, and I still do, but I just couldn't understand the accent. So not being able to express my feelings and aspirations was so hard. I thought I'd complete my degree here, but I ended up cleaning student accommodations at Edinburgh University. The students were my age. While they went to uni, I was there cleaning their rooms. So I learned a lot about myself and all of the unconscious biases that I had internalized. And I'm a much better person because of that. So my third tip is the experiences you're going through right now are important and valid. You have a lot to offer because of them. Now, after that, I spent a decade in what I call the call center purgatory. I was in my 20s and I did not know what I wanted to do, just what I didn't. The ideas that were sold to me about careers and a fulfilled life, they were crumbling in front of me. But when I look back now, I do still value those years. I learned a lot about human behavior and how to communicate better as well. One of the call centers that I worked for was PPL's, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Now, when I heard about Code Clan, I discarded it initially because I wasn't very good with maths. And in my experience now, though, a growth mindset and catalytic skills such as communication, collaboration, and compassion are just as valuable as maths in tech. Also, I used maths once as a developer, but I do communicate and collaborate with my colleagues and stakeholders multiple times a day. Now, when completing the software development course at Code Clan, I was 32 and it changed my life. It was very expensive, very, very incredibly hard, and probably one of the most fulfilling experiences I have ever had. The resilience and confidence that came with completing a course like that will stay with me for the rest of my life. So my fourth tip is, if you're thinking about a career in tech, do reach out. There are many people, many of us, who have taken the plunge and will gladly talk about our experiences and help you out. So for me, finding supportive and like-minded people through networking or reaching out and being vulnerable when psychologically safe, that was crucial. I made many mistakes, and I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the people that I met along the way and for the support of the people who loved me. Now, I managed to land a job as soon as I finished the course, despite the massive imposter syndrome. I could do a whole talk about that process though. So here's the main thing. For me, quality over quantity when sending applications was key. And also, reaching out to companies before you even send an application through is very, very important. Ask for a coffee and a chat. And because I say this because the position for a role that I was offered in the past was not even up. They created the position for me because they liked my personality and my enthusiasm. The main thing is, being in tech is really hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard. It comes with a very steep learning curve, but it's also just as fulfilling. And I had the privilege of jumping quite far in my career in terms of salary and responsibilities in a very short amount of time. I got to lead the development of a program which made free health support available for almost 1 million UK care workers, and I was only 33. And now I also managed to channel my skills into my passions. I set up a free coding course to empower survivors of domestic abuse and hopefully help them gain financial freedom and independence. So yeah, also it's important to remember to bring people up with you. Now, finally, I am now back at PPL as a software developer. I improve a product that I once used myself daily. And I came back because of the great work that PPL does and how many people we help, but also because they invest and believe in me as an individual. So my fifth and final tip is, don't feel like you need to fit a mold. If every single one of us goes through the exact same path, we'll be building products that will only serve a small percentage of the population. And as Jennifer Kim once said, everyone has a rich combination of skills, values, life experiences, and backgrounds. So yeah, don't take the skills you already possess for granted. We need people from all walks of life to make the tech industry much better. We need people like you, and it's never too late. I'll now hand it over to my colleague, Craig Mackenzie, who has a great story as well.
Thank you very much, Aline. Hi, everyone. My name is Craig Mackenzie. I've worked with People's Postcode Lottery for 5 years now, and this is my no wrong path. So I left school with a couple of higher C's. None of them were in computing or in maths, so nothing to suggest that I would eventually have a career in tech. And after school, with no real plan for my future, on a complete impulse, I decided to work offshore, and I worked on container vessels worldwide for a few years, which at 18 years old was amazing. So there was lots of travel and lots of adventure. And once I finished that, I followed a lifelong dream and moved to Vancouver in Canada. And while I was there, I met my future wife, and we decided to move back to her home in Okinawa in Japan. And I didn't know the language at all. So I had a few different jobs. The first one was a shopping centre Santa. Had no idea what the kids were saying to me. I was just smiling and nodding along. God knows what they're asking for. I worked in a bar on an American Air Force base as well, and got lots of tips with my accent, which was good. I was also a chef at an Indonesian restaurant, and eventually I was a primary school English teacher. So up until now, nothing to suggest I'm going to work in tech, lots of different jobs. After a couple of years in Japan, me and my wife, and at this point we also have a daughter, decided we'd like to move back to the UK. And I had to move back by myself because UK visa rules means that I need to prove that I have an income in the UK for at least 6 months. So I needed to get a job fast, step in People's Postcode Lottery. I got a job as a customer service advisor, and on paper it looked like a great place to work as well, and I quickly learned that it was a great place to work, and it should become apparent in the next few points that, yeah, you'll see that for yourselves. Once my family had moved to the UK, I started to think of a career path I could commit to, something I could learn in my spare time. And I'd like to point out that there were good career progressions within the customer service department at PPL, and there's lots of people in that department now who could do similar talks about their career paths as well. But once I started learning development, I enjoyed it so much, and the prospect of doing this every day for a job was really exciting for me. And I'll be totally honest, I didn't start learning development through a passion for tech. It'd been a vague interest throughout my life. I was kind of good with computers and things, but I didn't really have a passion for technology. I looked at it as a trade, a path to a well-paying career, but I was lucky because once I started learning it, I loved it. I also loved how accessible learning tech was for me as well, because I could just sit on my couch every night with a laptop and learn pretty much any technology, usually for free. And I do understand that accessibility isn't the same for everyone, because I had access to a laptop and to Wi-Fi, and also English is my native language as well, which you might not think about it, but is massively helpful if you're trying to learn development. I asked, when I was still at People's Postcode Lottery, I asked the then dev manager, Chris, if I could come up on my own spare time and watch the team work. And he told me there was a position open for a manual tester in the team, which is incredibly lucky. And with my experience using the systems at PPL, he said that I could be suited for the role. So I applied and I was ultimately successful. And joining the software development team was incredibly intimidating, because I was sitting next to some very experienced developers. I'd sit and watch them firing through the command line, and they had these like really wide monitors flipped vertically, just filled with code, and would have these chats about, oh, when did you start learning to program? And some of them were saying, oh, I was 7 or I was 8. And, you know, I'm sitting there pushing 30 and I'm not even 10% through my Java course. And I'm like, is this really for me? Like, am I ever going to catch up? But that was my main, well, a big lesson for me. And one of my main tips for today is don't compare yourself to others. It's massively demotivating to compare yourself to others, and it can make you feel like your goals are out of reach when they're definitely not. Just have your own goals in your mind. Be consistent with your learning and your curiosity. And I've now been a software developer for 1.5 years with People's Postcode Lottery. They've taken loads of chances on me. They've given me loads of opportunities, which I'm massively grateful for, especially to Craig Syme, who was speaking earlier. He's given me lots of opportunities. I've also had a lot of luck as well. Like, I am aware of that. I have been lucky. But I'd also like to say that a lot of the opportunities that I have been given, some of them I wouldn't have had I have not just asked and reached out. So that's another tip as well. Don't be shy. Yeah, so that was my No Wrong Path. Thank you very much for listening. And I'm going to pass you on to my colleague, Marta.
Thank you, Craig. Okay, hello. My name is Marta Dabrowka, and I am a software developer at the People's Postcode Lottery. And this is my No Wrong Path. So I am originally from Poland, and as a child, I loved school. I loved learning new things. I loved homework. I really thrived in that structured environment. And I especially enjoyed languages and reading. And I was probably at my happiest just rummaging around the shelves in the school library. But looking back, I was probably pigeonholed into a humanities person very early on, even though now looking back, I think I was pretty decent at maths and logical thinking. I just wasn't encouraged to pursue these subjects and assumed I wasn't really that great at them. Back in Warsaw, I did something called International Baccalaureate, which meant that I was taught in English, and I also had an opportunity to pass my finals in English, which made it much easier to apply for universities abroad. And this is how I ended up in Edinburgh and was very excited to study English literature, German, and Spanish. I quickly realized that my spoken English skills, even though I was taught in English for a good few years, they weren't even that great. I got a job as a waitress, and that helped me not only to pay my bills throughout the whole of university, but also practice and learn really good spoken English. So that was a great lesson for me, that learnings come from really unexpected places sometimes, and academia is only one way of getting new skills. I came to uni thinking that I had it all figured out. I wanted to be an academic. However, when it came to writing my postgraduate thesis, I realized that the research part was really fun and invigorating, but academic writing was something I struggled with a lot. I found the process difficult, constraining, and extremely isolating. So I decided that I won't be applying for a PhD and went into the world to look for a job. I still wanted to work in a sector that would allow me to work with things that I was interested in. So for a few years, I worked in museums and galleries sector in a mix of customer service and admin roles. And it was great working in an art gallery with like-minded people whose interests really aligned with my own. But I realized that career progression in that sector is tough. The sector is severely underfunded for once, and then you're expected to work for free or for very little remuneration, piling up expensive university degrees. So there is a lot of gatekeeping and kind of little opportunity to really get ahead. Still, I was lucky enough to complete a traineeship in digitization of cultural heritage artifacts, which was basically me and 5 other people running around the Scottish National Gallery's print rooms and photographing works on paper, prints, drawings, and photographs that were then to be published online to be enjoyed by wider audiences. And that was probably one of the most fun jobs I've ever had, and I made great friends in the process. Still, career prospects were really scarce. So then I got an admin job and was progressively getting kind of more frustrated and restless. I wanted a career where I could apply my energy and my curious mind to be stimulated, but also to be able to forge a path that I could have some control over. And that's how I got to Coke Clan. And when I phrase it like this, it almost sounds like a smooth transition, a solution to all my career problems. And in software, we're all about solutions. But that couldn't be far further from truth. Coke Clan was one of the most difficult and challenging things I ever did in my life. It came as a huge financial and emotional sacrifice. So I had to save up for the fees because it's really expensive. I have to leave my full-time job that I finally secured a permanent contract for. I had to move flats and kind of shrewdly budget every penny. And more than that, I was also confronted with a realization that was quite hard for me, because I had a lot of my self-worth attached to the idea of being a quick and efficient learner. But I had to kind of come to realize that learning new things, truly new things, is really hard and exhausting. And it's okay that it takes a lot of time. So after Coke Clan, I was lucky to get a job at a local startup, and then I also worked at another startup. And both of these places were still in a pretty early phase, still figuring out their product and business proposition. So thanks to that, I had a chance to wear many hats. So not only kind of dipping my toes in all sorts of development, I was also involved in user testing, generating product ideas, or even recruitment. And this is what I really enjoy about tech as a sector, because it's so dynamic. It allows for forging those paths in a way that are not necessarily possible elsewhere. There are plenty of opportunities for progression and having control over my career, unlike working in museums and galleries. It's also a good mix of collaboration and individual work that really suits my personality, unlike academia. And now I'm working at the PPL as a software developer on the website team, building user-friendly and accessible user interfaces. In my day-to-day, I spend a lot of time talking, researching, and thinking, and it's not just code. I do mostly front-end development, which is good for me because I want to specialize in accessibility. Building things that are technically sophisticated is fun, but for me, it's more important to build things that are useful and usable. As a relative newcomer to this industry, I make use of my transferable skills, and one of them is effective communication. So tailoring communication to the audience, avoiding technical vocabulary when it's not helping with anything. The ability to explain complex concepts in a simple, accessible way is something I make use of every day. So don't underestimate the skills that you have so far, just take them along with you. I may not be at school or in academia anymore, but I still love learning new things. And my final advice has to do with reflecting on your progress. So tech is super intense and there's always a new method, framework, or tool to learn, and it gets pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. So journaling for me has been a way to appreciate how much I already know. I like to write down kind of daily, today I learned bits, or even daily to-dos. So then I can look back in a few months' time to really see how far I've come. It gives me a sense of control and fulfillment, and definitely helps with performance management reviews at work. So that's me. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the Q&A. Don't be shy to reach out. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Marta, and thanks everyone. I think, firstly, thank you for sharing your stories. It's not always easy to do so, so I do appreciate it. And I hope that it's useful to the people that are listening on the call. There's lots of different ways to start here. We've kind of summarized what we think are some top tips that we think you should look at. And I'll kind of jump into those. A few of them have been touched. Tailor your CV as much as you can, especially, you know, if you're really interested in a role, then you need to tailor it to your skills to match the type of culture and tone and what the company is, that what they're talking about. Look at what they're doing on social. What are they saying in the news? You need to mirror and show that you've got something to add to their story as well. Stand out. I think Aline talked about this. Every experience you've got can be replayed and work within an environment. Tech, for me, in my experience, is very broad. Everyone has a lot that they can bring to the table. And so any life experience, be it waitressing, be it doing internships, whatever, actually still has quite a lot to play with regards to working within a tech industry. Grab experiences and anything that you can think of, from whether it's webinars like this. We run quite a lot of technical ones that people can come on. It was slightly easier. You could be seen better when it was face to face, but equally it's important that you come on because it's something that you can reference and talk about. I think Matt talked about absorbing all of the blogs and everything that he could read. Look for influencers in the market, who's talking about particular technology, and try and follow them, because it gives you a lot of real hands-on experience or knowledge that you can portray when it comes to applications or interviews. Do your research. As a hiring manager myself, I can very clearly tell who has glanced at the website versus who has read quite a lot deeper and knows what we're saying on social, knows what's important to us, knows who our clients are, potentially even what are some of the pain points of our clients. And so we do think it's important. We know it's a tough market, that there's a lot of people applying for the jobs, but honestly, you can very easily tell those that have done a little bit more research and genuinely appear interested in the company that they're applying to. And then, if at all possible, relax, show your enthusiasm, show your personality, get that to come across in your application, in your discussions with HR or wherever it goes through. Do things like what Aline said, of if there's a chance to reach out to someone, to ask for a coffee, to ask for feedback, potentially a mentor. Don't underestimate the value of a bit of a network in this industry. But do you know, again, in my experience, you'll see today very few of these journeys started with tech. In fact, some of them started as far away as possible. But increasingly, most jobs or most industries, most companies rely on tech. And so regardless of where you are, there is absolutely an opportunity for it. So we're going to open up. There's been quite a few questions that have come through, so I'm going to try and work my way through a few of them. And keep them coming in. We'll try and get back to you. And what we'll also do at the end of this is, as we send a summary out to you, if there's anything unanswered, then we'll try and get some questions back to you. So let me see. There was a question. I'm going to start with one that actually that came in that said, what's changed? I may put this to Craig actually, because I know you do some hiring as well. What's changed during the COVID period with regards to how you recruit and interview people? You know, and obviously it's quite a different environment for us at the moment. What other tips could you give people in terms of the type of environment we're in at the moment?
So we do most of our interviews online now over video calls, much like we're doing right now. And for us, hiring hasn't really changed that much. We're still looking for, as you said, people that are really interested in people's postcode lottery and a really good cultural fit for us. And more, I guess, what's more important than anything else is that the person shows this aptitude and willingness and want to learn and has and shows that they're going to take on a continuous learning path throughout their career. That's really what we look for, and it hasn't changed between before COVID and the situation that we're in now, other than the fact that we're trying to identify that over a Zoom call or Teams.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Similar for us. We did a lot of ours remotely anyway. I guess the added extra now is we also onboard people remotely. So there are many people that have joined both organizations over the last 5 months that we've actually never met face to face, but have built a really strong relationship. So I think that's an interesting thing for us to go forward. So I think as well, I mean, I've got children at school. Don't be shy of putting on your video. Don't hide behind in your dressing gown or anything like that. You have to be out there. We have to see who you are, because these are the only opportunities that we get at the moment to see who people are. Craig, we've got a question. Craig Mackenzie, we've got a question for you, but Matt can probably have a go at this one as well. How do you see the world of software development evolving in the next 3 to 5 years, and which technologies should we be paying attention to now? So I'll start with Craig Mackenzie, if you want to have a shot at that.
So I would say that there is a bit of a shift just now towards cloud computing, and that's been a huge learning curve for me. It seems to be a skill that's highly sought after just now as well from recruiters. So I would definitely say cloud computing. I myself have been concentrating on Python because I find that is quite a good language to use for things like serverless computing and things like that. So from a developer's point of view and from my own studying point of view, I think it's cloud native applications and Python. Matt, would you like to have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, totally agree. Cloud services, AWS, Azure, DevOps is becoming a hugely important part of software development. There's been some huge developments in the scripting languages. So, React and Angular are real key languages that are used in web development. And especially now that scripting languages that are no longer just used for front-end presentation websites, they can go from front to back. So there's a real sort of mix of those sorts of technologies. Mobile is obviously, hugely popular, and there's big developments within not only mobile native languages, but things such as hybrid languages, where again, taking these scripting languages and then converting them so they run natively. However, I think one of the big things that you'll see in the next few years is when the advent of 5G really takes over. You'll start to see things like progressive web apps, where effectively, the applications no longer need to live on, actual mobile devices. They can actually be served up, from, cloud services, just as responsive and with as much sort of features as you would get natively. So, yeah, there's a huge development all the time. I think the one thing about technology and the technology we're living in is there's no one language that you could pick and say that's the one. There's everything. There's a plethora of things that you could do that runs all the way from, front end, back end, as I said, presentation layers, machine learning, artificial intelligence. There really is something that for everyone, and it's just getting better by the day.
Yeah, I guess that was something that I would echo. Like, if you were starting out as a software engineer, again, like the first programming language that you learn isn't it isn't hugely important, but it's more practicing and learning. The continuous learning skill set is something that you should master. Like in tech, I've been working 23 years in tech, and I've learned I think close to 10 different programming languages, and it's more about the skill set of learning that's important, rather than any particular one skill set that you need to learn and master for now, because the one consistent thing about the technology market is that it keeps changing.
Okay, great. Did anyone else want to comment on that? I know that Marta and Aline are there, just to give you a chance to. No.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with Craig on this one. I think it's important, the concepts that you will learn through learning different languages are you know, they kind of they're constant. So even if one thing I would like to say to someone is, if you're learning a new language and not everything is staying, that you know that whenever you go through those concepts again, it becomes clear. Don't let the first language, regardless of the language that you're learning, put you off learning. This becomes easier the more you go through it.
And what I would add to that, maybe slightly controversially, but from the front-end developer point of view, you don't have to jump straight into, you know, complicated things like React or Angular. Learn your basics. There's nothing wrong with starting with just bare HTML and CSS. And actually, less and less people in the industry are focusing on these skills. So this may actually, you know, set you apart from them. So learn your basics.
Yeah. And learn accessibility.
And learn accessibility when you're at it.
We'll just follow up on accessibility. We talk a lot about accessibility. So let's move on. There's a few more questions. Well, there's a couple more questions that I want to get through. One person asked of me, do Waracle, and I'll ask this of PPL as well, insist on people having a degree, or could a school leaver with relevant skills get a job? Well, actually, Waracle's built on a number of people that were school leavers. And so actually, we're quite open to that. What we're looking for is people that have the skills. We have a lot of experienced devs who have, as Craig has mentioned, gone from one language to the next, and they've added on to it. Particularly in our side of things, it's native languages and mobile. So that we particularly look for, but that is expanding as well. And a lot of people have just built that up over time. One of the things I would always say to people, particularly school leavers and graduates, is practice. Develop your own things, be it build your own website, be it build your own apps, start playing with things so that you've got the experience out with an official course, because we can absolutely tell the difference of people that have had hands-on experience, that they play with it all day and all night, as opposed to someone that's had less hands-on experience in an academic sense. So the more experience you can get, regardless of whether you're a degree or a school leaver, that's what I think most of us are looking for. Craig, did you want to comment on that? Craig Syme.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that for applicants that stands out on a CV as someone that's gone above and beyond. So if you are undertaking your degree, or you're just starting out on there, look for opportunities for internships, or participate in open source projects, so that you can call those things out on your CV, because they really make the difference when applying for a job. They're some of the key things that we look out for. And similarly to Waracle, PPL also has an undergraduate scheme where we have, I think we have 4 undergraduates who are undertaking a degree whilst learning how to be a software developer within our department as well. So it's something that we try and support.
Yep. Okay, great. I think this is an interesting one. There's 2 more that I want to cover. So I know that we're really close to time and I don't want to lose anyone. We will be sending out a summary of this if anyone needs to drop off, but very quickly, someone just asked, that it seems to be a lot of people that have mentioned ADHD or dyslexia. Is that common in the tech industry? Well, I can't tell you the stats, but absolutely. It is very, very common. be it that we're more open-minded or that they're more creative and suit this environment. One and the two go hand in hand. And I think generally, I think tech in most companies is pretty open-minded and pretty flexible in terms of the type of people that we hire. I want to ask one question. I don't know that we've got time, but one question that I want to ask is, time's moved on a lot since we've all graduated. What would be the one tiny, you can only one thing each, that you would tell people who are now school leavers or graduates what they would do in terms of going out into the world? And I'll start and I'll say I would focus on digital marketing. Look at the analytics side of things, understand social behind the scenes, not what you post, the analytics of it, because that is a really rare commodity on the market. So Tom, what would you say?
Yeah, well, being a sales guy, I think look at the options in the sales world, right? You can be hugely financially rewarding, and if you're a competitive guy in particular, get stuck into it. It's good fun, and I think a lot of the time at school they don't talk enough about sales and actually the importance that it has in business. So yeah, have a think about it. It could be something that's right for you.
Craig, Syme.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more general. I think key to succeeding in your career path is to find that the thing that you enjoy doing, because you'll invest way more effort into that. So and if technology is something that you love doing, then throw yourself into that. And as Sharon said, that don't just do your degree, try lots of different things, get involved, and build up a portfolio of things that you've built that you can showcase for yourself.
Yeah. Aline?
Yeah, so for me, it will be brave and speak out on injustices. Algorithms are being written that decide people's lives. So make sure that, you know, with technology comes kindness and ethics as well. And yeah, I think, yeah, focus on that, please.
Let's do a webinar on that, Aline.
Yeah.
Craig, Mackenzie? Well, he might have dropped off. He had to drop off to another call. Matt?
I'm going to be a bit general. I would say just don't worry. I remember when I left school and, you know, it felt like that was the be all and end all, and it certainly isn't. So, you know, do not worry. The world needs people who are determined, who want to, you know, get on in their career. And, you know, if you're tenacious, then, you know, you will succeed. Absolutely. But certainly to echo what Craig said, find something that you love, because if you find something you love, you know, it won't be difficult. You'll have a passion and you'll find how easy it is when you enjoy what you do.
Okay, and Marta?
Oh, so many good ones have been already said, but I would say don't stress at your first kind of job. Like, you're going to have some missteps and nobody's got it figured out, you know, straight out of school or university. So, you know, don't assume that that first job has to be the path that you'll be sticking with for the longest time, because you've heard it here, like it's not like that at all. So just, you know, just get a job, serve your needs first, because, you know, it may be that you may just need to get a job to pay your bills, and like that's absolutely fine. You know, give yourself time to figure out what that path is supposed to be, because, you know, it surely doesn't have to be the first one you jump right into. Sorry.
Nice one. Okay, well, I know we're running over. I'd like to thank everyone for presenting today and sharing their stories. I hope it has been of use and maybe inspiration to you. Thank you to our PPL partners in terms of their contribution to this as well. Both organizations are hiring and continue to do so. So by all means, reach out to either of us or both of us. You'll end up working together. And we hope it's been of use. Please give us feedback. We will definitely come back to you and ask for feedback as well. So thank you all and have a good day.